You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy.
Three, two. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I am your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall,
Anybody remember how to use their brake pedal?
Brad Wren,
Hey, everybody. I don't have much to add after that.
all right, and John Curley,
Hey, iRacers.
and Greg Hectus.
What's up, everybody?
Well, on today's show, we will recap the iRacing Daytona 500 and discuss some of the issues that have been raised. Find out if you have these bad habits in iRacing, see if you have the cars to experience the rain when it comes out, and is iRacing missing a huge opportunity with the winner of the Daytona 500?
And remember, you can follow along with us on your PC or mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com and selecting show notes. Hope to see you there.
First thing up is the Millbridge update. We have a post from iRacing featuring new pictures of Millbridge Speedway that will be released with the Season 2 build.
Well, not much of an infield, huh? It's a pretty small track.
Yeah, it's teeny. I mean, they run. I think it's actually weekday racing that they do. So, lots of NASCAR guys, families are racing there. So most of the stuff is done, I think, during the week, just because the guys aren't there on the weekends.
iRacing missed a big opportunity not using Casey Boat to advertise this track. She talks about it enough on the podcast.
Well, and I don't think they've shown us anything about the what is it called? Midget?
Micro sprint.
Midget, mini, micro, right?
Yeah, those are
More
going to
to
be
come on
fun.
that.
Those will be fun to race on this. I mean, this is grassroots American racing right here.
Right, and you want to start out in that micro sprint, John, and then work your way up, to some of the bigger dirt cars. That's what I was saying last week is I feel like I just jumped into these big dirt cars and I'm in over my head, really.
Well, maybe this will be a good spot to start because I haven't turned a single lap in a dirt vehicle.
Yeah, my first experience was with the majors, and it was Knoxville, I think. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, you ran what, the 305 or 405 or something?
It was one of the big ones with the wing that you could adjust.
Those things, they're hard to handle if you don't do much with the dirt tracks, man. I'm with Mike. I think the micro sprint is a great place to start on a track like this and let the dirt fly.
All right, well, it's good news. Next, let's talk about some incidents. Incidentally, what was the deal with all the incidents? And I'm seeing this in Atlanta too. The tweet is from Benjamin A. White, and he says, "So will an instance of this ridiculous in-game glitch in a major split of RTP finally prompt iRacing to look into what it is and why it's happening?" And it's just being really sensitive on the 4Xs.
Now there was a video with this, but apparently the it says you're unable to view this post because the account owner limits who can view their post. So he's taking it private or something. So that kind of messed up my whole story here. But the reason we were looking at this video was it was a really, bad incident of the net code kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw one where a guy literally looked like he got slam drafted, like in the old days when there was still at least a foot or two between them as they were drafting. The lead car just got shoved out with nothing touching him.
Now, I think I remember this video now. I think it was Road to Pro. It was the trucks, and he came up like kind of next to the guy in front of him, or closer to the car in front of him, and his whole front end of the NASCAR truck fell off to the ground, and it looked like he had net coded to the guy in front of him, and it totally destroyed his truck.
Well, we've got a link to a forum post right underneath this that's got a kind of a recap of Daytona. And the screenshot they got is, I guess, one of the splits, but the number of incidents is just it's maddening. I know Mike, you got, I guess, what DQ'd because of all of yours for the 500.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of checkups, and we'll talk about that. But I think, yeah, the 4Xs are really easy to get at the last couple weeks. Right into the next video, David stepped off. It's the funny Moonhead guy calling a race at a restrictor plate track, and he said they just wrecked so hard it broke my iRacing. So the whole field wrecks, and basically his screen freezes. Like frozen solid once they hit the big pile up, and it's kind of funny to hear his reaction to it.
I imagine this guy could probably make a turtle race sound exciting.
Well, he's got that Southern California drawl and kind of a yelling, attitude about it. And so, yeah, it's NASCAR funny if there is such a thing.
But the sensitivity with the 4Xs, I had several races where I was only in one wreck, but had 16X. Just from the check stack ups.
All right, well, let's jump on to the UK track speculation. What'd you guys think of this?
I think you jumped ahead of us, or am I not up to date?
No, you left the room, and so we moved on.
Oh, well, I guess I'm going to do an edit then.
So we have Overtake GG asked the question of which UK tracks are coming, or could be scanned. Remember, in the Greg Hill dissertation, as I'll call it, he indicated that they will be going to the UK to scan 2 tracks, and so here is the speculation about well, which ones are they?
My guess would probably be either Thruxton or Croft. The article talks about, I guess, the Top Gear test track, which I just can't see happening, and I guess a Goodwood hill climb or whatever. I'm not sure that there'd be a huge demand for that personally.
I mean, the Goodwill hill climb, is that a point to point kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much the what is it, Mount Washington gets used outside of I guess a time trial thing periodically, like they ran, I guess, a month or two ago.
Yeah, I mean, that is our only point to point. But you're right. When you think about point to point racing, the Goodwill hill climb is not at the top of the list. You're thinking rallycross, you're thinking Norway, that kind of stuff.
Or Pikes Peak or something like that. So, yeah, I don't like I said, my guess would probably be Thruxton or Croft. Pretty decent circuits from a club's aspect. Probably be good for some of those entry level open wheel cars.
All right, John, tell us about the Daytona 500 statistics.
Yeah, so they've posted the statistics from the Daytona 500. How many people were in it, how many laps they did, and looks like we had. Whoops! I've just lost my preview here. Here we go. All right, Daytona 500. They've posted the results of how many people were in the race, and somebody's going to have to take it because something's just happened to my show notes here.
367 races with 13,000 driver entries, 2 million laps.
That's that's pretty impressive. We were talking in the chat. I think the 13,000 number, that's driver entry. So when I go and run the Daytona 500 four times, then I'm four of that number, of that 13,000 number.
Yeah, I think that would be the way to take it. Still, I mean, I think huge numbers. I have no idea what it was last year. Anybody have an idea?
I don't, but I bet we talked about it on this show. We should probably go back and listen to it. But yeah, it's a big number. If you try to, divide that out by, what's the average oval iRacer running? They're going to run it twice, three times. You know, it's still a nice number. It's several thousand people, and so, uh, I think Sunday night was probably the biggest one. Do you remember the number? I think it was 1,800 registered.
Well, how many? What is it? About
Uh,
30, 35 per split?
it got close to 200 on or 2,000 on Friday night too.
Yeah, so those were the numbers. I think it was like 1,800 on Sunday fixed, and you're right, probably approaching 2,000 on the a Wednesday or Friday.
Well, we had the real Daytona 500 this weekend as well, and Mr. iRacing himself, or one of them, is the winner. And we have a Instagram, I guess, where he's discussing how he started in iRacing.
Yeah, this is him on one of the big TV shows that they run during the day. I think, is it Kelly Ripa and her husband, and on the Kelly Ripa show or whatever. And so they're talking about, his how he got into sim racing, and that showed he was interested, and that's how he decided to go real racing, blah blah blah. And so anyway, the male counterpart of the couple was very interested. Obviously, he's done his own sim racing, and it's kind of a neat clip.
Additionally, he posted himself a straight out of the computer tweet where it shows him putting on a headset and then afterwards the winning car.
So, I would like to kind of maybe discuss this a little bit because I think everybody takes this a bit to the extreme. Like William Byron just got out of his sim rig and went to work for Hendrick Motorsports or Junior Motorsports. Did he have an abnormal start? Yes, but he was in cars early still. I mean, it's not like he, just went from the bedroom to to driving on a NASCAR track.
Good point. And so a lot of people who aren't watching racing, they get that impression. And I guess, to Brad's point, is it fair that the marketing people and stuff are putting that impression out there? Because it is being put out there, that it's really that simple, but in fact, like you said, it isn't.
Well, it's that hard to be the best even at iRacing too. I mean, we can get on there, but how many of us can actually get into Coke, and then how many can win in Coke?
Oh no, I agree 100%. Like I said, I think that gets missed that he did. He went and ran. I don't know if he ran not Bandoleros, but help me out.
Late models and stuff, right?
Yeah, before that he was running. Oh, for gosh sakes,
Legends, and
Legends.
I
Thank
think it
you.
was Legends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Legends and stuff like that. So, I mean, yes, he started sim racing, and parents saw that he had a desire to do it. And like most parents, they, if they can afford it, they try to do that. And he's good. I'm not taking that away from him. But he did. Yeah, he still followed somewhat of a traditional path. Just was late to the game. I mean, he was in his teens when he started, which is that used to be somewhat of the normal thing years ago. I mean, if you go back to the 80s and even the early 90s, guys didn't get to the cup level until they were in their 30s.
Well, I think too, I mean, this is just another example of the next generation of drivers is here. I mean, the Tony Stewarts and the Matt Kenseth and the those guys, they didn't get their start, where they were in the car early as a kid, but they were also in the sim early as a kid, and that kind of stuff. So it's just different these days. And I applaud William for embracing it. To get iRacing's name out there, that's cool. I'm glad that he does such a thing. Now, to take it to the next level, we have a guy named Brett Griffin.
Let me jump in just with one last point. With Brad's point, he kind of came in late, but what's happening now is if you have to have money when you're like 5 and start then, whereas what's replacing that is you can kind of get raised a little bit in iRacing and cover some of those early local stages and jump straight to late models instead of having to come all the way up from racing little midgets when you're 6 years old and such. So
Raja
that
Caruth.
and Roger's taking the same route. He's driven late models. He didn't jump straight to a truck, right? So they're starting a little further down the ladder when they get in the real car instead of racing from 6 years on.
Okay. And so moving on to that, I actually tweeted Mike Ellis late the 21st. Hey, sounds like he's calling you out, Steve Myers. And it was in response to Brett Griffin, the former spotter and DBC podcast host. Um, he said this quote, "If iRacing isn't a primary sponsor on the 24 this season, it will be the biggest marketing fail and cheapskate move ever in all of NASCAR. And the 24 has races available. Tag at iRacing. And Williams should never credit them for his background ever again."
Yeah, I don't think Steve Myers liked that because he responded to that. He said, "Well, that's his opinion. We've always taken the approach that those dollars are more valuable to us and our customers spent on making our product better. We're lucky to have ownership that allows us to reinvest our profits into the business, making it stronger for the future." So I think that's a no.
I love the response. Oh man, that is great, isn't it? It's okay. So the couple things that he says there, like first of all, this is not really a for-profit venture. I mean, he basically just says that everything is being reinvested back into the product. More staff, better better graphics, better everything, better data centers, you know. So I just love it when iRacing says stuff like that. They're not driven by the bottom line like all these corporate greed companies. All of them are that way now, and so iRacing is not that way, and that is very, very refreshing. But I guess on the other hand, what would we feel like if our hard-earned money that we spend on iRacing every month, millions and millions of it went to sponsor a car, on the NASCAR schedule on 1 or 2 races. I mean, what a waste of money.
And that's a whole different jump than sponsoring late models.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I can tell you the company I work for spent 10 years, sponsoring NASCAR, and after 10 years, it had run its course. And for us as a company, we're now involved with the NBA because when it comes to any sort of sponsorship, it's all about the contacts and the stuff that you get, whether it's look, I love NASCAR. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to spending your money, we were sponsoring races, and you sponsor 6 races a year. That's 6 weekends where your name is out there. We switched to the NBA. We sponsor 6 teams, and now what does the NBA have? 70, 80 games. So it's a dollars, versus the amount of exposure you're going to get. And iRacing does spend money in racing. Watching the Daytona 500, at one of the points during the race, the standings, it was iRacing right up at the top. So they invest a lot of money in the eNASCAR series. So I like Brett. I like the points that he offers sometimes, but sometimes it's bloviating. It's just wrong.
See Dale Jr.'s response, John, to Brett Griffin's. He put up a meme or something. I forget what it said. It was funny though.
Yeah, and that's not showing up in my feed here for some reason. But I got to tell you, and I don't want to get too far off, but like a lot of people, I watch the Daytona 500, and some of that corporate sponsorship just turns me off so much. I mean, the car manufacturers were mentioned so many times during that race. I will never buy one of those three cars again in my life. So I'm glad that iRacing's not going to do it.
Here's the Dale Jr. tweet. It says, "Why are you the way that you are?"
Does he remember that Dell is on iRacing's board?
It's not a good use of a money for iRacing. Like you said, they are selectively spending. They're doing some advertising. And look, people that watch NASCAR, they've heard about iRacing in the last 2 weeks, and that's free advertising. Thank you, William Byron. Thank you, Fox Sports and whoever else talks about it.
It's almost like he's saying pay after the fact.
I think, you hear Mike Joyce talk about it and it's video game, and that kind of annoys me, but still.
Well, speaking of investing in the software, the big patch is coming soon, and we've got information on what cars might be available when Tempest comes out. I think it's more than might. All right, tell us about it, Brad.
Yep. So we had a Instagram post from iRacing with screenshots of the vehicles that, when the patch drops, will be available to drive in the rain. So we talked last week. I think we kind of went through this a little bit. You're going to have basically the IMSA series. So you're going to have the six GT3 cars along with the four GTPs. Let's see.
And the
LMP2.
LMP2.
Yep, the LMP2. You're going to have what is
The
it?
FIA F4.
Yep, FIA F4. The the F was it 1600? It's really small. I don't have my glasses on. The Toyota GR6, GR8. So I mean, again, nothing. I think we were all surprised that the IMSA series was in there. That's what surprised me, because I don't think anybody was expecting that. From what was originally talked about back in December.
Well, it's interesting that they got to that before the Formula cars, and of course IndyCar was a really late coming back to the game. But IMSA is the biggest thing, I think. IMSA and WEC, you have to say, are the biggest thing on iRacing. As big as we are under the NASCAR side. When I sign on every day, when I get on an IMSA race, there's 200-300 people registered every 2 hours, and you don't see that in an A Open.
Nope. Nope. Again, you get it's the worldwide stuff. I mean, we've talked before, and you look at probably just at members alone. Europe is, I think, pretty much just drowns out the U.S.
Now, week 13, I'm kind of envisioning, hey, I want to jump in and try this new rain. Are there going to be week 13 series with these cars for us to try? That, I mean, I certainly hope so. Because if not, I was thinking, okay, then I'm going to be making an AI race right off the bat, an IMSA, Sebring in the rain AI race.
Well, they have never not included the new features in the Week 13 stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he said in the midseason update that there would be, I think, content in week 13, so that you could get your hands, get a test of what it's like. Now, which series that is, that's to see, but I think you'll definitely get your fill of rain.
Yeah. And get that question answered. Will it lower my FPS? Will I have to change my graphics settings? I think everyone's worried about that.
All right, you heard me fussing about this if you were in my NIS race last night. Stay on the apron. John.
So this is a video from the E-Racing Association race at Daytona. And there was a guy, classic lapper. He's down on the apron going into, I think it's turn 3. And as the lead pack is coming by him, what does he do? He shoots up onto the track from the apron and caused the big one. Took out, I mean, it was the big one, probably 14, 15 cars. And of course, everybody's on X, they're saying, I hope he got suspended. What a bonehead, so on and so on. But man, I don't want to say I feel bad for the guy, but he was trying to stay off the track and he just didn't slow down enough and went back and took people out.
Okay, so there's this guy named Kevin LePage. Have you
That's what
heard of him?
I was looking, I was sitting there going, man, what is the guy? What was his name? I was like, Derek Hope. No, it's not Derek Hope. Kevin LePage, exactly. Coming out of the pits, blends right up into the pack. It was horrible.
Well, look, this guy wasn't trying to blend into the pack. He was just 40 miles an hour too fast going into the apron at the turn. Yeah. And so it just automatically went up the banking and took out the pack. And anyway, yeah, it reminds me of Kevin LePage. Look, I kind of feel sorry for the guy because if you don't know, if you've never been in that circumstance, it can happen to you. I mean, because you don't realize what the speed is because you're used to it being real fast going in there. And then you don't think, oh, I'm going to be on the flat if I'm going to be out of the way. And I should have slowed down about 300 yards ago.
But in this race is not like rookies. I would assume this is maybe an invite only league or something.
This is a buy-in. So look at the second video. $4,000 this guy won. And so they show the final lap of him winning the race and his victory and his yelling and screaming and stuff at the end is priceless. I mean, he's obviously very stoked he won the money.
Now, did you see Logan Clavnit's reply to this tweet? Greg posted it.
Was that David? I'm sorry.
Logan Clampett ripped into this league pretty hard, actually, in a reply.
Well, I think he got caught up in that Kevin LePage incident. And like obviously he paid them to race, and yeah, you'd be upset too. But yeah, you're right. Logan did have a nice little reply to the league about their officiating.
It just reminds me of what it's like to run in most leagues, especially if they try to enforce their own rules. Because he was saying that they give out penalties for driving through too many boxes, but are less worried about people causing wrecks like this. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, Twitter and motorsports are kind of a neat mix. Like you get, you're hot off these events, or you get wrecked out. You jump on the Twitter, you put out some heated comments, and yeah, I love it.
Well, the most frustrating thing is that there's just never real consequences for stupidity. Right? They'll get you for saying mean things. It's kind of like with a certain politician. They don't like you because you say mean things. But when you do mean things, as long as you didn't do them intentionally, you're okay.
How about that guy's victory lane scream? It's genuine, that's for sure. Pretty cool. Cody Niegels is the guy who won the Omega Cup Spring Bowl.
All right, this next one I already referred to. It's another X post, and it's the speed boost that I was talking about. If you watch it, the guy's we're in a normal drafting situation. The car is nowhere near the other car, and suddenly there's this just delayed bump, like he got slammed. It manages to not cause a wreck. He managed to hold on to it, but it looks like he got hit by a car going 10 miles an hour faster, 10 to 20 miles an hour faster.
Right, like a big hit. Like it really pushed him out there. Like he was really lucky to save it. I think and I said this the first night of the Daytona 500. I said over the radio to you guys, something's different. Something is different with the front to nose contacts, and I can tell. And that night, I actually had so many incidents. I had a problem, and because of those kind of situations, it just raced differently. And then you see videos like this, you're like, wow, okay, well that kind of coincides with what I was feeling.
He was shoved over two car links out in front of the car that was pushing him. and he was the leader.
Yeah, that was extreme. Yeah. I didn't anticipate, feel anything like that, but that is interesting.
Well, we talked about the incidents, and I mean, I know a bunch of us ran Atlanta last night, and the incidents are still just as bad. It's just the 4X's from what would be normally, I think, casual contact to a bumper. Uh, Something needs to get done because there's no reason for guys to end up with 20 and 24 incidents just from bump drafting.
Well, I notice it seems like at Daytona, and it's happening in Atlanta. I think very very little contact gives you 4X, and I'm with Mike. Something has changed. Don't know what it is, but there is something different about damage and what's happening to the cars with just a little bit of contact.
Great. I mean, my teammate Tyler Williamson and I had contact last night, and it was very, very slight. I mean, it wasn't even hardly a touch, and it was a 4X, and it's just like, come on.
All right, we can cover the Tag Heuer series next. It looks like Job has taken the sprint race victory while Webster grabs the feature win. Tell us a little bit more, Mike.
Yeah, Job. Wow, he maintains the point gap. He won his third straight pole, his fourth straight victory in the sprint race. Um, he followed that up with seventh in the feature, though, and then his teammate Cooper Webster got the win. But Jobs having pretty good year with a fantastic start. I mean, he's got a bunch of nice finishes in the bag, so let's see if he can hold it.
He's currently sitting with a 50-point lead in the points.
And this is not like the Dirt series where you can miss the feature and really take a hard hit. How about the picture, Brad, on the next one? Speaking of
Yes.
iRacing and sponsorships.
There you go. So had a Facebook post from iRacing's Tyler Hudson showing off his fresh livery for his Dirt Late model. So great looking car. Again, yes, Tyler works for iRacing, but I'm sure he's not doing it for free either. So, iRacing does spend money. Good looking car. I'm sure it'll get replicated in the sim somewhere.
Look, it takes money to go dirt late model racing. You got to buy tires and fuel and everything else, maybe pay crew members and stuff. And so, yeah, iRacing is absolutely spending money on this. I don't imagine they're just adding it to his paycheck, but yeah, they're footing the bill. They're on the car as a primary, and you can see he does have some other sponsorship on the car, though. I do see two or three other minor sponsors, and so that's great. Good luck to Tyler. The car looks great. Love the black underlay with the white iRacing on top of that. It's kind of a neat look.
I want that side panel that's hanging back up there in the top. That looked great in my basement.
All from his old car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a new setup shop, though they look to be mostly road centric. They're called Race Clutch. Tell us a little bit more, John.
Yeah, so raceclutchcenter.com is launching a setup shop basically, and it is. It's a road course. They're doing the F1s, WRCs, R Factor 2, Le Mans Ultimate, and iRacing setups. The iRacing setups are not live on the site yet, so this is kind of their promo. Uh, but yeah, I mean, this is a new shop. They've got different services. I think they're going to do coaching. Uh, so it's a site to check out. Raceclutchcenter.com.
Well, from what I hear, all they'll have to do for Le Mans Ultimate, which is coming soon, is transfer their R Factor 2 sets over.
Well, it's never mind.
So since you bring it up, I mean, there was a warning about Semicube in the Le Mans Ultimate. If you have a Semicube, you have to invert your force feedback because it's ass backwards.
Yeah, I mean, there's I've got Sim Magic, and there's an option I can invert mine too. So I think it's customary on the wheels themselves where you can invert it. But yeah, that would suck. I think the tweet or whatever said, I guess had some broken fingers.
I have it's not I checked on the script to see if it's not covered, but on that note, I'm seeing a lot of reviews for people who've tried Le Mans Ultimate and that it's essentially R Factor 2 with the same old bugs and new ones.
Yeah, I mean it's an early release, so that's one thing to keep in mind, I guess. You know, I haven't messed with R Factor 2. It had just come out when I was getting out of the sim. Um, I mean, it looks good, but again, you know, it is what it is.
I'm surprised it's out at all, to be honest. So good luck to him.
This next question comes with a little bit of irony because if you know it will shock you, how's it going to shock you? The question is, what will shock you in the next build? It was asked by Jean Wang, and he asked the question if you, based on the comments from Greg Hill's mid-season update. So, what all did y'all find on this, Mike?
Well, there's speculation from that update about he says it's a bit of a shocker coming on the racing vehicle front, but will not spoil the surprise too early on that. And so they're kind of reading into the word shocker and speculating maybe it's the Porsche Mission X, which is apparently an EV car, or Formula E. Maybe we're going to have Formula E coming. Or maybe it's the STCC 2024 EV touring cars. And he goes on to say Nitrocross or World Rallycross EVs. And that's probably my best. That's what I would put my money on is Nitrocross. Or maybe there's an IndyCar hybrid update coming. And so the votes are in, and most people picked Nitrocross with 38 votes, Formula E 37, and something else actually won out the voting ranks. Porsche Mission X was the lowest vote.
Is that
So
an
what is Greg Hill talking about? Yeah.
I don't know. Is that an indication of popularity or lack of popularity that got the lowest votes?
Well, I think the tides are turning on the EV movement, so to speak. You got manufacturers that are looking at hydrogen and different things, and yeah, I don't know if that's the direction everybody's going at the same time.
I just don't see a high demand for a sim car that's EV. I don't know.
So then, what is it then? And maybe he's not referring to EV. Maybe we're reading into it.
Yeah, I didn't even pick that up. That's how bad I am. I didn't even pick up the EV side of it. I'm just thinking there's something's coming that nobody's, that hasn't been discussed. So
The next picture, if you like sci-fi horror or just horror in general, almost makes a good picture. That's kind of shocking.
yeah, so Billy Roberts posted on the iRacing forums about a bug that he's found at the Kern County Speedway. Uh, so apparently, your crew they're missing their heads. So he's got a screenshot here of the pit boxes, and looks like the gas man who's facing you is good to go, but the I guess the race engineers that are standing looking at their laptops are missing their heads, and they're floating above them. I just saw that. Oh my gosh.
Oh my, I just realized that too. I didn't see that before. So the heads are 4 feet up from the top of the guy's hat, just kind of floating there. So we got the headless pit crew or engineering team. Yeah, when you look at it, I got the Invisible Man vibe going because you
That's
can
what I
see the
got.
Yeah.
microphone from his headset sitting there in front of the invisible face.
So if these are guys who had a tendency to forget a lot of things, they might actually forget their head.
How
How does
well,
this
I know.
pass
I,
QA?
exactly. That's my thing. How do things like this get past there? Now I don't know what car this is. That doesn't look familiar to me as far as the pit setup. Because I know there's some differences between cars and pit setup. I don't know. Yeah, how does it get
Yeah, this
past?
could be a legend or something weird. Yeah. Anyway, kind of funny.
Oh, I wish we didn't have to worry about copyright because I can think of a perfect song to throw up for this one. But DJ EJ shares 10 mistakes about bad habits that you don't need to make. Tell us a little bit, John.
Yeah, so DJ EJ. He's one of our favorites. You know, he comes up with some great YouTube videos, and I watched this one today. And he uh, uh, gave a little plug. He does a lot of coaching. Teaching guys how to race, and he's got a pretty good, I guess, data bank of information in his head on mistakes that new drivers make. And so he did this video on some things, 10 things that are bad habits that you need to stop doing. And he said, first off, don't avoid side by side racing. Go ahead and do it. Don't skip qualifying. Don't just practice qualifying. He said you want to take the car to its limits. Test it. See what you can do with it. Go ahead and use guides or references. He said use those brakes, use the gas pedal. Don't just let off the gas. And sometimes our settings aren't good. This is a real good tutorial, I think, for people like me who aren't that fast on some things, do's and don'ts.
I'd be a little bit careful on the side by side racing. If the car catches you and is clearly faster, and you can hold them down by running them side by side, but you're just going to slow each other down. I think you should avoid it in those cases. All right, but you can't be afraid to side by side race either, or gain some experience doing it here and there, because you need to be able to do it when it's crunch time.
Well, he's referring to the rookie class specifically. As you're coming up, you're a new person. He said that the bad habit is people are trying to avoid the side by side racing, trying to get out of rookies as fast as they can. That's what people tell them to do. And he's saying, don't do that. Stay in the rookies. Use that to learn how to race side by side. That's the proper place to figure it out, not later when you get to D or C.
Fast track needs to go away.
We're big enough now. Why can't it? Yeah. I don't see any reason why it should not go away.
I'm telling you, the
Maybe to
racecraft.
clean it up.
It would. The racecraft was so much better, when you had to run an entire season before you could change classes. It was so much better.
Well, I agree with you guys on that. I mean, I think that's absolutely true. But how does iRacing sell new cars and tracks if they put you on a slow track?
Well, hopefully we get to a point where there's just there's enough subscribers that they're not that they don't need to do that money grab anymore. Like, oh, we got to get everyone to A class so they can buy all the new content. I let it play out. Let it play out.
Right? If you remember when we did the math on their numbers of active subscribers and we took the average cost of a year, there was quite a bit of change coming in, Mike. Just in
It is.
subscriptions. Just in subscriptions.
Right. And they got a big staff, granted 130 is what we heard last time. So, that's a lot of salary, So
I know. I'm just saying. I, I'm just saying. Maybe not 12 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, something. I mean, I don't know how quick you can fast track now, but I know it's definitely quicker than 12 weeks.
When
So
I'll tell you how quick you can fast track. When Bristol went to dirt the first time, I had never run an official dirt race, right? So we had the NIS rate and A opens there for that week, but they had already separated the ratings. So your rating and your gains were based on your dirt rating. In 1 week, I was Class C.
That's unreal.
so I think this video is good for older seasoned vets like myself as well, because it reminds me of what my bad habits are. Like he mentions not using, track guides or racing references. And I remember back several years ago, some of our teammates would do that. Like every week, at the beginning of the week, oh, there's a track guide out by so and so on YouTube, and you watch it and you get some ideas before you even get on the track. And I don't do stuff like that, but could it help me? It might, and so
Oh,
it's kind of neat to get those ideas.
absolutely, I think it'll help. From the roadside, I do it with a subscription service that before I'm going to hit the track, I'm going to watch, a guide through because it just helps. I may know the course, but there's nothing wrong with somebody giving you a coach along the way. And you know what? Come to find out, after I watch that, I typically reduce my lap times because I'm hitting the corners in the right gear where I need to hit apexes and everything. So there's nothing wrong with the track guide.
So have you watched your Bathurst video?
Yes, and I'm still not super fast, but that's okay. Just got to survive.
So I watched. I'm practicing for Bathurst, and I'm not a road guy, but I'm having fun with it. Very slow. So then I watched 4 Bathurst track guides, got on the track, and was 3 seconds faster just going off of those guides.
So that says a lot right there. And the other one here, refused to test the car limits, but also the track limits. Like especially like at a place like Coda, you need to know where the slowdowns are. You need to know when it goes to 1x, and when it doesn't, and you need to figure that out before you get into the race. Unlike what I do.
All right, so we got two. We're going to wrap up the topics with 2 events. The first one is more of a season announcement. It's the BMW M Power Series, which is going to feature 10 races, it looks like, of
12.
various, or is it 12? Okay. 12 races of various BMW cars at different tracks. So it's going to switch each time. For example, in the middle of March, it'll be the BMW hybrid at Sebring. Then the next week, it'll be the M4 GT4 at Nürburgring. And that's basically the format. It's going to be switching cars and tracks each week.
I was pretty excited to see this because there's some of the legacy content in here that was fun to drive years ago that probably a lot of people own, like the original, I think the BMW Z, whatever it was. That was a fun little car to drive. So I'm excited for that.
You're talking about the Z4 GT3?
Yeah. Yeah, it was the first thing BMW GT3 they had.
And what's neat about this is kind of a take of off of the ringmeister and master, where they switched the cars off. That was a good experiment. It worked. And now you got manufacturers jumping into the game and doing their own thing. And so I like it. I mean, you get BMW involved. They're like, hey, we want to use these 3 cars and have a 12-week series and blah 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 blah. And it's great. I love it.
And then the other event we've kind of already been talking about is Bathurst 12 Hours. It's this weekend. They have put out the balance of power. That's probably the biggest update. We're not going to read the same other details that we read, except John, got to have Class C, basically.
Oh yeah, I got it now.
I'll remind you every week. And the VRS Sprint is actually running that track this week as well. So you have to have Class B to run that, though, just in case you didn't know.
And you
Uh,
missed the Prodigy event.
did I? We'll come back to that one then. Balance of power was announced, though. I do want to read those off. They took 1% power from the Audi, 1.5% from the BMW M4, 3% from the Ferrari. Oh, they hammered you guys, Brad.
It is what it is.
Ford stayed the same. Lambo stayed the same. McLaren minus almost 2%, 1.75. They took 2% from the Mercedes, and they left the Porsche alone. Yeah, I didn't see Prodigy because it literally just says home. That's why I overlooked it. I just didn't see it as a. I thought it was a blank. So tell us about Prodigy, Brad, since you were working with it and probably know it the best.
We talked, I think, a little bit about this last week. They've got a series going, which you can qualify in order to actually basically get a tryout for an actual professional race car contract with Prodigy. They've done this for a few years, I think, in various forms, from Mazda to open wheel and stuff. So we talked about it last week. A pretty neat opportunity. Again, another opportunity for someone to go from sim to reality.
And so, look, what you need to be doing to do this is be racing the Mazda MX-5, basically. And so, y- the top 48 in series points will advance to the postseason finals and so forth. And so you can basically win a package to go real racing. It's pretty cool. Okay, podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate it. Get involved in the discussion over at the Discord. Lots of people showing off their rigs and wheels this week. Pretty cool stuff over there. And then iRacersLounge.com for the show notes, where you can see all the links to everything we discuss. We're still in regular rotation at the Performance Motorsports Network, and iRacers Lounge merchandise is available at iRacersLounge.shop. Really high end stuff, guys, hats and shirts. Fantasy, I haven't even looked, guys. Who won it?
I know Brian and I were going to try to get through this, and that didn't happen.
All right, I have the overall league standings, and it's Eric Poppin as our leader, Mike Golig second, JTC 11C third, tied for third with Pete Racing, and then fifth, Supreme 3D Printing. That's our friend Kyle. And so I think Kyle Pendergraft's the highest teammate on the list in P5.
Congratulations to those 5 guys on winning the Daytona lottery.
Yeah, I signed up to do it with you guys this year, and I'm currently sitting 45th, so not a good first week. I think I got Byron out of a good finish.
So I was just listening to a podcast where Alex actually kind of took more credit for that wreck than Byron.
We should have. I got Hendrick out of a good finish. How about that?
So now, how do people sign up for the our fantasy contest here?
NASCAR app on your smartphone, Android or Apple. And you hit the little menu in the upper corner, the 3 lines, and then fantasy, and then go find the league from there.
You can get there on the website as well, NASCAR.com.
Yeah, it was pretty easy. I was signed up with it about 10 minutes, so it's pretty quick.
I ended up 19th in the standings. So what about Atlanta? Is it the same, same story, different week?
No, it's worse.
Oh,
In Daytona, you could still kind of find the fast drivers and work together and actually accomplish something. In Atlanta, you're basically just stuck until somebody screws up. It's just a parade.
there's no
Yeah.
passing.
No, I think we all experienced that last night.
So who do we like? You gotta like Hendrick still. They're hot right now, so I guess I'm gonna go with Hendrick.
Uh, I think the Fords are still have an upper hand. I would think so. Logano is quick. You know, I'm probably going to say the Fords should still be quick.
And what do you guys think of Kevin Harvick?
I think he did well. He's definitely a much. It's much easier to listen to Kevin than it is to listen to Boyer.
I think the MRN broadcast was great.
Yeah, I'm done.
They,
I'm done with NASCAR broadcasts on Fox. I'm going to have to listen to MRN from here on out.
I just prefer to anyway because I actually was on racing myself, or I think actually flying a plane at that point and listening while I did.
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, Doug Rice is retiring from PRN, and they had him on the MRN broadcast, and that was kind of a nice gesture, after his 35 years as the voice of NASCAR.
Yeah, I mean MRN's always been great. I can remember years and years ago, be out, cutting grass and listening to the race and stop cutting and run into the house because it sounded like there was an incredible race going on, only to turn it on and to be disappointed that MRN was just making it sound better than it actually was. But that's okay.
They're really good at doing that at Indianapolis. They can make Indianapolis sound like it's super exciting, and then you go look at it, and you're like, "What?"
Just be glad to get these two drafting tracks is what they call them now. They're not restrictor plate tracks; they're just drafting tracks. Happy to get them in the rear view.
It's time for hardware software, and we're going to open up with Tony Kanon walking us through his SimLabs chassis build. Mike, give us a little story.
Well, that's just it. He goes over some tips and tricks on how to put a SimLab Pro together that you can get from Micro Center. The Tony Kanon edition is green. I love the color. Um, he has some great tips for anyone building a rig. You should just take a moment and go through this. He talks about where at one point where the written instructions for the build indicate you need spacers, but they actually don't include the spacers. And then he figured out that you don't even need the spacers. And so he has like tips like that. Like you could get really thrown off on a couple little things with this build. Um, and look, I have a teammate, Steve Llewellyn, who um, he actually sold all his sim racing equipment last year because he had a family change in his family, and he needed to get out. But he messaged me or this afternoon and said, "Look, I'm getting back in. What rig should I buy?" Well, this is the one I told him to buy, the SimLab Pro. This is one of three I recommended, but this is the top three. I really think it is.
I think it's a good video. I mean, there are things I watched in this that I wish I had watched, before I built mine. I built mine on the ground. In hindsight, I should have put it on a table. Would have been much easier. Spending half a day on your hands and knees and doing everything on the ground was a disaster. So it's a good, it's a good video. Micro Center, I think it's a great resource if you've got one near you to where you can go see the stuff and actually touch it and look at it. I've got one 3 hours from me, so when it comes time to maybe look at some different hardware, I'm definitely taking a trip.
Did Micro Center make the instructions, or did SimLab finally add instructions? Because mine had no instructions. I figured it all out by watching the retired. Is it Barney? Was that his name? Sim Racing Garage.
Sim Racing Garage, yeah. Look, I've got a track racer, and the directions I got, were not great. There were steps that were not needed anymore, and actually reached out on a couple of things, and they're like, "Oh, that's not the right directions. You need to use these." I'm like, "Well,
This
this
is
is what you sent me." So I think there's every review I've seen of almost any rig, there seems to be some sort of questions when it comes to directions.
is it a track racer or is it a sim lab?
This is a sim lab. What I'm saying is, just like Tony said about steps missing or parts missing, it somewhat seems to be consistent with almost all of the rig builders. They just don't seem to do a very good job of either keeping updated material online or sent with it, because it's overwhelming and daunting when you start to put one of these things together, because you don't want to make a mistake, because you're 10, 15 steps into it when you realize that you screwed up step two.
I think the other thing the video highlights for me is the differences between the the Heritage P1X that David and I have compared to this new P1 Pro. And the biggest difference was when he put together the original, base, so to speak. It has these little corner pieces that just screw right into the metal, and it makes it real easy compared to the Heritage P1X. You had these little corner brackets, and you had to stack them, and you had two of them, and you had to set them on every single corner and get them aligned just right. So it's quite a different build. It's much faster. It looks like to build one of these than a P1X was.
All right, and I just got to be honest, I got in trouble because my wife was watching the stream and she heard me talk about going to Micro Center. So if I disappear quickly, you'll know why.
The thing about Micro Center is if you can go there, you avoid shipping. Now, when I bought my SimiCube wheelbase, I got it from Micro Center and I had it shipped.
Yeah, mine came from Europe. All right. Probably can't talk your wife into letting you buy this either, Brad, can you?
Are we talking Goodyear shoes?
Yes.
Uh, no, but I race with karting shoes, so that's probably just as bad. But yeah, Goodyear's. I've seen some commercials, and I guess maybe on X and stuff like that. But we got a link here to their website for Goodyear feet. Goodyear Footwear USA.com's collections of performance shoes, casual, sim racing. I don't know. I'm not a huge Goodyear fan, particularly. Maybe a good avenue for those. I think most people probably still race in socks. I stopped racing in socks many years ago just because of the type of pedals I used. Just couldn't do them in socks. Mike, you've got the pedals I used to have, the main performance sim pedals. Um, there's no way I could do those in socks. And even with the Husenfeld sprints, I can't use socks. So probably a good option. I didn't really look at pricing. Not in the shoe market right now, but I think any sort of good avenue is good for shoes when it comes to sim racing.
You bring up a good point. If you're racing on a pedal that you can race with socks, you're not really racing with pressure. You're racing with position.
It's that's turns into nothing but memory, muscle memory.
Well, it's all muscle memory, but there's a difference between position and pressure. And with pressure, you're having to control exactly how far you push. I said that wrong. With position, you're having to control exactly how far you push, and you almost sometimes have to lift your leg up a little, and force the other direction to keep it where you need it. Whereas when you're using pressure, you're always pushing forward. You have one direction to force. It's just how much do you push?
Yep.
So they have a specific collection for sim racing called the Ori S, and then they have some other names. $95 is there are some a little bit cheaper, but yeah, I mean, Goodyear. I actually bought a rubber hose for my yard from Goodyear, and it's the best hose money could buy. I mean, it'll never deteriorate in the Arizona sun. Super thick rubber. Um, so I imagine they make good shoes. Shoes are made out of rubber, right? The sole of them, anyway. But I don't need shoes. I actually don't use shoes. I just use thick socks.
Well, if they're anything like the tires, you can be pretty certain they won't wear out. Tough crowd today. Come on.
Well, I mean, if you look at these, when I was using the old um, uh, pedals, it was socks. It was the cheap pedals. But when I went to the SimMagic pedals, I couldn't use socks anymore. I had to use shoes. So I don't know, for $95. I mean, we spend a lot more money than that on some other things. So it's a lightweight shoe, breathable fabric. Got a rounded heel, which is considered to be good for drivers, slip resistant. Yeah, if you're looking for shoes to drive with, maybe this is worth checking out.
Oh, yeah, well, that's fine. Like I said, I picked up a pair of karting shoes off Amazon for about $45. They're great. Absolutely great.
Are we ready for another wheel, John?
Yeah, in the last 12 months or so, I've been searching for wheels and I just can't seem to find any. But suddenly we have a Cosworth CCW MK2 Pro Sim wheel from SimRep Engineering. It like a lot of these wheels that we've had, these Formula wheels, great looking wheel for Formula drivers to check out. I don't, I don't have a wheel like this. I need one. I want one. I love the looks of this. It looks like it has a nice dash on it. Anybody else take a look at this?
My, of course. And, this is one of those rare products where they don't list the price. You have to inquire about the price.
Oh
And
no, they do. They do. It's pre-order. It's 7,900 euros.
what? 7,900.
It's the name, man. It's Cosworth.
That's too
Well,
expensive.
look, let's talk about the Cosworth name. So you go to IndyCar race and you look at an IndyCar, they're using Cosworth wheels.
Sure, they are. And 7,900 is the base. You can get more stuff for more money with that. That doesn't include, dual clutch upgrade and other stuff. So, quick translation, I think that's like $8,300.
I'm going to read a little quote off the website. We are incredibly proud that we've been asked to develop the electronics and software for the Cosworth ProSim wheel. The last few months, we have worked together with Cosworth to re-engineer the CCW MK2 from a motorsport wheel to a sim wheel. All parts are genuine Cosworth parts. The electronics have been re-engineered for sim racing purposes.
If I
What
hit
you
the
do?
if I hit the lottery, there'll be signs. This could be one, but I'd have to hit the lottery.
Well, this is for people like the next guy we're going to talk about, I think, really. I mean, the average sim racer it's out of reach. I'm sorry, it's just not realistic.
Well, who is that next guy, John, since you brought him up?
Well, his name is Joe Rogan. Joe has had a custom made $70,000 racing simulator built. Um, you know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I heard about this and I issued a challenge to Joe. Joe, let's do Bathurst or something. He's got a super super cool podium rig that's been custom built for him. Mike, when I saw this, I thought of you because look at those monitors.
These are my dream project, the monitors that they do at Podium Racing. So first of all, the stand that they have, if you jump over to like the 18-minute mark, you'll see what I'm talking about. The triple monitor stand, they have a stand behind it for the computer, and then there's also a tray for the subwoofer, and then they have the three speakers, center, left, and right, mounted on the uprights of the triple monitor mount. So you have audio built in. It also and they have this really neat integrated wheel stand. Uh, when I say wheel stand, or it's like a place to put your extra wheels, and it hangs down from the right monitor, and and you go and like hang your wheel on it, and it actually powers up the wheel. And what's interesting about this build is when you're racing, those wheels that you have hanging over on the bottom right, the displays light up and the LEDs light up and everything just like if they're hooked to the wheel, but they're not. So he has all four wheels all showing the RPM gauge at the same time. It's a really neat effect.
So just for comparison, my wheels are held up by coat hooks.
But look, the monitor footprint is big. It's it's almost too big for the space I have. So I don't know if I'm going to have this exact thing, but man, I really like that bigger monitor thing, and then you just set a rig in front of it. And of course,
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's rig is motion and everything else. He's got the BDH shifter and Ace-Attack wheelbase and Heiskenveld Ultimates, and so they do the Heiskenveld Ultimates for the clutch and the throttle, but they gave him a semi-cube active brake.
So, I mean, when you get to monitors this size, I think to me, there's almost a point where it's too big because it's the that's the word I'm looking for. The car is almost larger than what it would be in real life.
Right, but if you set the rig off and if you're at the right distance, so I think it works out. And so you're right. There is a point where it's too big. I think those monitors that Will Ford did, which were 65s or whatever, those were too big. I think this is the sweet spot. I think this is as big as you want to get. You wouldn't get bigger than this.
Yeah, this is pretty close. I don't because you're if you just imagine yourself sitting in a car, it looks like that's about how far it would be over. About the only difference is that on the left side, you're it's actually theoretically really closer to you, right? In most cars, because you're sitting on the left side. Um, but yeah, this is basically a wraparound, almost like a projection. It reaches so far.
And lots of neat ideas. Like he has this little it looks like a controller, a game controller, but it's really a small keyboard and mouse. So they don't have a traditional keyboard mouse with the Joe Rogan's rig. They have this tiny little, 6 foot by or 6 inch by 4 inch little keyboard with a trackpad on it. And so when he navigates around iRacing, he just grabs that little thing and that's a neat idea. Anyway, I love this video. Recaro seat, they gave him like this super fancy real racing seat that cost several $1,000s. And look, the guys at Podium, they just like build the most expensive rig you could imagine. Just the biggest monitors, the most expensive seat, the best wheels, the best pedals. Extra wheels. Let's give him a Gomez and let's give him this Gomez and let's. So they just really hooked up Joe Rogan. They build it in their warehouse and then they take it apart and ship it, and then they fly out and meet it and they put it together and tune it for him and everything.
Well, let's jump back into the everyday man rigs, Brad. We've got a track racer review next.
Yep. So we got a video from Sarah Nochi. She reviews the Track Racer TRX, and then she ends up sharing kind of her all-in price for the complete system. So that was an interesting video. I kind of like it when somebody kind of goes through and talks about what they paid. Now, when she set this, I guess when she did this build, it's was some time ago, so prices probably have changed. Um, it's the strangest thing to me in this is just the layout of the way she's got the setup. It's more of a reclined rig, I guess, going towards a formula, but the monitors, everything are on just a kind of a funky angle. I guess just kind of depends on what you're going for. Not sure would be my cup of tea. As a guy who's getting older, it's pretty low to the ground too, which I wanted to avoid when I built mine. I just don't like having to get up off the floor.
That is definitely an F1 seat.
Yeah. So, and with the TRX, you can adjust, the angle of it, so you can try to kind of go back and forth between a GT style and a Formula. Um, again, pretty honest review. And I think her all in was probably around seven or $8,000, something like that. I think. Um, not bad.
Oh, Sarah has done something I've never seen in all my sim racing years, which is have those triples angled down 15, 20 degrees, whatever it is. I've never seen such a thing. I've never in my time ever seen any of them that aren't just up straight up and down. And so when I saw this, it threw me back. I'm like, whoa, I never even thought of that idea that you could do such a thing. But it's an interesting layout because the way that her, she's really way down in the seat. She's got her feet kind of cockeyed up, and she's got the wheel up in the air and kind of pointing down at the same angle as the viewing angle is. So it looks like it works. It looks comfortable.
Yeah, I think it's kind of that laid back formula kind of seating arrangement. I mean, Sarah's got a nice build going there. I mean, it's not Joe Rogan's, but it's nice.
Yeah, I just don't know if you're trying to go for a Formula layout, I'm trying to think about an actual race car. So in a Formula race car, you're going to be laying back, yes, but you're still going to be parallel with the ground. You're not looking up at the sky when you're racing. That's my only thing that just throws me off with this continually. Every time I look at it, I'm just like, I don't want to be perched at 20 degrees and looking, up at the ceiling when I'm racing. Now I understand she's got the monitors are aligned with where the seat is, but the same thing could be obtained with the monitor with the rig flat.
I'm glad you said that because I think you just said what I was feeling that this isn't right. It's got to be straight up and down. This is not kosher. But look, the other thing that she really highlighted that I kind of forgot about this rig. I don't know if I've ever been a fan of it. Our teammate Tom Dreiling bought this rig actually. But what she pointed out was something that's truly incredible is the amount of adjustability it really has. The wheelbase, back, forth, up, down, you name it. It pedals, even the seat itself. It has it's very easy to adjust on the fly. You don't have to take stuff apart like you do with an 80/20 rig.
Well, I've got the cousin to this. I've got the Track Racer TR8 Pro, and adjustability is one of the reasons I got it because I can adjust anything and everything just with loosening a couple of little screws. Uh, so yeah, it very adjustable. I mean, and if you like that laid back approach to it, maybe it's just I don't know, maybe it balances out her weight better. But yeah, it's a really adjustable rig. And I like mine.
And yeah, she's got a newer YouTube channel. She's just starting iRacing, and I subscribed. She was great. Glad to have her in the community. It made me think of Annie Rabbits. When's the last time we heard of Annie Rabbits, David? It's been a while.
She went streaming for a while, and I kind of stopped keeping up with the Discord because I just have too many Discords to keep up with, and I haven't run into her lately.
I don't think she's on anymore.
All right, this next one is a SHH shifter unboxing, and this was one I almost bought. It's a 3D printed, affordable shifter that can switch between H pattern and sequential pretty easily. Brad, have you given this video a watch?
Yeah, I did. I watched this. It's pretty neat. Pretty neat setup. What he was upfront and honest and said that what he's unboxing is not what comes with the kit. He bought a bunch of extra stuff, different mounting options, different uh, gates, plates, gate plates. I don't I'm saying that right. But for the shifter to where you can change how the pattern is, reminded me of the old was it TH8 Thrustmaster shifter maybe. I think I had one of those back in the day where you had to take the plate off to change it to sequential and H pattern. For 3D printing, I mean, it looks pretty good. I did like that. I guess you could get your own logo or whatever put on there, which is pretty cool. If you like that. So he didn't get super deep into a full review so much as just an unboxing. But for a mid level entry, mid to entry to mid shifter seems to be a pretty good option.
I think,
€109.
I think this is the one Bobby has, actually. I think he actually got this one. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, somebody on our team bought this. I've heard good things about it. There's just a switch on the side to switch it from H to sequential. Um, it's functional. You don't really need the plates, but they're kind of nice to have, I guess. But it does have that 3D printed look. Um, so yeah,
Well, let's shift on to the next shifter review, Mike.
yeah, we got the VNM sequential shifter review. Sim Racing Den plans a review of this. They actually just teased it on their Instagram, a photo of it. It does have that lever on the shaft for, I believe, neutral or reverse, one or the other. V&M logo on the front. Um, this is their version 2 logo. And so, yeah, there'll be a review coming out shortly. So, Brad, what color do you prefer for your Heiskenveld?
Um, these look really good. So I've got the sprints, and mine are not the black. They're just the first ones that came out. But yeah, I mean, look, Huskenfeld continues to offer different options on stuff. No difference between the traditionals. Just the structure is black. I think they look fantastic. I love the silver on the black. To be honest with you.
Yep. So now you can order the high-end Ultimate Plus pedals in silver and now black. So look, you can't go wrong with these. Like we just talked about, the Joe Rogan rig, the 70,000 spin my money rig. What did they pick? They picked the Heischenfeld Ultimates for the throttle and the clutch. They sold him the active brake, from SemiCube. I'm kind of surprised they didn't give him active brakes for all three pedals though to get the cost up more.
You know what I like about this product, Heisenfeld in particular? When you look at just a picture of the things that these guys make, you're looking at quality. I mean, the way these are put together, top of the line stuff.
They are virtually bulletproof. And if something goes wrong, I mean, they stand behind what they put out. Probably some of the best customer service, in the sim industry, I would say. I mean, guys have bought them secondhand and had stuff go wrong, and they reach out and they'll ship them what they need to get them back to work. And so, again, they stand behind it, everything. That's the one reason I went with them when I started to build my rig again, just because of I knew, they've been around for a long time, and just their customer service and track record is great.
Reputation is very good in the community, and it's been there for a long time. So yeah, absolutely.
So next up, we have a button box that kind of doubles as a stream deck. And what it actually does, they like to brag in their Instagram post that you don't no longer have the dilemma between convenience and immersion. And I guess they're trying to say that this is the only way you can choose to have a button box and a stream deck, which is stretching it a little, but hey, it's marketing. But you have to buy the stream deck separately. That's a little bit quick part of the trick. So essentially, it's a button box that you can insert a stream deck into and kind of make it a combined unit.
Yeah, we've seen them before, where they're mixed together, and this is a great result, I think. It's got the starter switch with the cover. It's got the big brake bias knob. You got push buttons, you got joysticks, twisty knobs, but then the Stream Deck's kind of in the corner part. Lots of carbon fiber look. It looks pretty thick though. No idea what it's going to cost. This is a tease here. It's from the Racebox Sim, from Sim Racing Den. Apparently, they're going to do a review on it.
It looks mostly 3D printed, so it probably wouldn't be terribly expensive.
So one of our viewers in the Discord this week was asking, "Hey, where can I buy a cheap touchscreen?" Because they wanted to add something else, and I think Dr. Orzi was telling them, "Look, get the Stream Deck XL. That's the way to go." Um, instead of a small, mini iPad or something, if that's what you're looking for, the Stream Deck will do what you're wanting to do.
Is that Stream Deck or Steam Deck? There's a difference.
Did I say it wrong? It's Stream Deck is what it says on the post.
Okay. Because the Steam Deck is something that you can actually play games on, Steam games on directly.
No, the idea behind this is you can reconfigure in the software what the buttons display and do when you push them.
Okay.
So you do have different profiles. So I'm getting into a IMSA car, so I have this profile for that. Or now I'm going NASCAR race and I have a totally different profile. The buttons do different things.
But he would be stuck with buttons, whereas a touchscreen he could actually turn into a display.
Yeah, but he was going to use it as buttons, so I think it was a good recommendation. Like I said, there's other alternatives, kind of that we've seen those little tiny mini panels they call them, or panels, where they have little electronic buttons, which looks like a Stream Deck, but
All right, John, you get to be our wheelman this week.
Yeah, so Esports Sim has the FSW or Formula Steering Wheel Series 3 coming out, which is compatible with the PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Will Ford did a review of this, and I look at these wheels, and man, it's this one's eye candy with all the colors on it. It's got a 5-inch digital display that gives you all the telemetry data. It's got the functional rotary switches, the LEDs. Nice looking wheel. It's compatible with some Thrustmaster wheelbases, Fanatec wheelbases, Simicube, Simagic, Moza, Logitech, Acertec. I mean, this is a Formula wheel that Will Ford says is pretty good, and he compared it to a lot of others out there and thought it was a pretty good bargain. Now, I don't remember what the price was, but I would look at Boosted Media's um, YouTube video if you're in the market for a Formula steering wheel.
oh, look, he said mixed things. I mean, Will is very diplomatic when he has a product that's just not quite there. And at the end of this, in the conclusions, I carried off some different thoughts from what he was saying. It's super heavy. It's heavy, heavy, heavy. And that really can diminish your force feedback is when it's heavier than other wheels. It's massively big. This is bigger than other wheels. When he holds up the cube controls and the Soul Peck, next to it, those look like normal wheels. This thing is a behemoth, okay? And that's why it's over heavy too. And he also spoke pretty negatively about the flex in the bottom of the grip. He even brought it to the attention of the company, and they dismissed it. His feedback, basically. Um,
Yeah,
he said he even noticed it while driving, and so that's a huge red flag to me.
it is. And right at the very beginning of the video, when he's got the thing sitting in front of him, the first thing that came to my mind is, my God, that thing's massive. I mean, it is huge.
don't think we've seen a bigger one. This is big.
The whole point of a Formula wheel is quick response.
Look, I think Will he said don't buy this, but he didn't say that. I mean, but I in other words, I think he said that because he was saying, well, you look, I when I reach into these buttons, I have to take my hand off the grip because they're so far away, and it's all the little comments really say don't buy this in a nice way, in a very, British kind of kind way.
Yeah, it's just I think the market is really flooded with these right now. I mean, just almost over flooded. It's like everybody's trying to put out a Formula wheel.
It goes back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. This is going to be a $9.9 billion industry, and these people, for this particular wheel, they're trying to carve out their little niche in that market, but uh, they might have tried to put a little too much into this, and it is too big.
Well, it's PlayStation compatible. They got that going for them, and he said they did their own software and firmware, which is unusual. Most firmware or wheel manufacturers are piggybacking off of SimHub and other third-party software and firmware that's available. So,
Well, Mike, we've got this next one. There's a little kind of throwback Logitech post almost. And the question is the OC no, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Is a Logitech shifter still worth it?
well, when I first saw the video, I thought it might be like a April Fool's kind of joke review video, but he seriously is reviewing the Logitech shifter that's available from the Logitech 920 and other wheelbases of that stature. Um, and he talks about, the different drawbacks with it. One is incompatibility. When he used it, he actually has to run it into the original wheelbase and then have it plugged into the computer. Or you can actually buy an adapter off of Amazon that's $30. The thing only costs 70, I think, or 60 to begin with, but then you have to buy a $30 adapter just to plug it in. Or there's a $40 Logitech adapter box that they sell that also works. Um, yeah, I mean, he talked about it has a good look, with the clamp. Does it really mount to the kind of rigs we're using? Not really. This is really designed for a desk. It's going to be a hard pass for me.
Well, look, I had a G25 at some point. That's where some of us that have been around since the 90s and the early 2000s, that's what you used. Um, so, I think we got rid of ours when we moved 2 times ago because nobody was using it. Yeah, I think it has its place in the ecosystem as an entry level with the wheel, but outside of that, I just think it's a waste of money and a waste of time.
More wheels, John, but it's not a Formula wheel.
No, yeah, you know, I was joking around. I got so sick of hearing all those manufacturer remarks on the Daytona 500. I said I'm going to buy a Volkswagen. What? Lo and behold, we got a Volkswagen rally wheel, anywhere from 259 to 339 euros. It's a 330 centimeter wheel, and this is a rally wheel. Um, that's made, and I honestly, AMU R5 Rally, I'm not even sure who makes this. I couldn't figure this out.
Website is from Spain, so it's a Spanish company. You got to wonder if they're officially licensed to put that VW logo on the middle of the wheel or not. I don't know. At that price, you kind of wonder if it is officially licensed. And
Well, going to their website, they've got BMW wheels and stuff too, so I think I'm sure it's officially licensed.
okay, nice little wheel box, button box in the middle of the Alcantara wheel. Kind of nice. Looks kind of like a drifting wheel. You want to, for drifting, you want a nice round wheel. We don't do enough rally to need a special wheel, though.
All right, Mike, this next one is pretty interesting. I know you run a phone for your dashboard. What do you think of this dashboard?
Yeah, I saw this on the Instagram this week, and I was blown away. Sim Dash, um, their Sim dot dash. They show off an 8.8-inch wide DDU, and it does have the RPM LEDs blazing across the top above the display. But this thing is massive. If you want to put a big old display behind your wheel, this takes it to the next level because not only do you have that dash right in the center, but like off to the left, you can have the track map, and off to the right, you can have the relative. Kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, but it's big. It's big.
It's almost as big or bigger than that Porsche dash that we've seen. That's really big.
I think
Um,
the height is a little bit higher with the I don't want to say wide, not wider. The height, I guess, on
Well,
the Porsche.
in a cup car, digital dash is bigger than that.
Look at the fifth picture over where they show the whole cockpit. You got the cube control wheel, really nice, like I have. But there's a great picture of a Stream Deck there on the left. You can really get a good view of what that Stream Deck looks like in action.
It's got Brad's favorite item on there as well, the wind simulators.
I don't know how people do it with the hoses. I've never been able to get wind through the hose. It just poofs out at a very low volume.
Need bigger fans.
Well, then you have a noise problem.
Wear headphones.
Or, David, how about this next simulator?
Well, is this just a motion sim or is this actually a factory sim?
This
This
the
is
fact.
Dolores Sim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a YouTube video of the Delara sim, and it's got motion. It looks kind of space agey, in fact.
I think what they say, 3 million, 5 million, something like that. There's three of these. Ferrari has one, Haas has one, and then this is the other one. And so this guy, who's a race car driver, he basically walks us through how to get in it, what it looks like when you're in it from his point of view. Um, it's pretty cool.
They're actually making him wear a helmet in it.
Yeah, I mean, when he gets into it, so he's testing a prototype of GTP basically. So the cockpit is set up just like that. He's getting into just like he's getting in a regular car. Um, it was very very cool video. He goes out, he turns 15 laps, and he's got the engineers telling him what he's doing wrong. And he comes back in, he gets done, and he sits down, and they kind of start to break things down. And he's like, "How did I do?" And they're like, "You were very slow." Every corner he was slow. Everywhere he was supposed to be fast, he was slow. So it was kind of funny. But pretty neat. I mean, but look, when when testing costs a fortune, a lot of money. I mean, this is why the simulation has become so huge with real motorsports because I mean, they were talking this when Delara, they start to think of a car concept wise, they've built it in the simulator before they've ever built it on the road. And they can run all the tests on what they want to do before they ever build the car. So it's pretty neat video. I would suggest you watch it.
Well, we had a BMW before it was released in production.
Yeah, that it was neat to hear how they do the design of the car with it. They also talked a little bit about how teams would use it to work the setup for the actual race weekend. They'd come in and they'd have the sim driver working it, and then they would feed that feedback to the team that's at the track and so forth. And
But,
so, yeah,
that's what NASCAR's doing. I mean, you guys in Ford, Chevy, and Toyota simulators, you got guys that have sim time every week, and that's what they're doing. They're not, when that car comes off the hauler, it's set up based on what they've run in the sim that week. that's every single week, and that's why guys that are there's no more tinkering around changing sway bars and springs and everything at the track. You come off the trailer and you got to be quick.
The
Yeah,
actuators on this thing are huge, right? What do you think the throw on them is? Several, at least a couple of meters.
12 feet. I mean, something crazy. I mean, look, I wanted to describe it for our audio listeners. It's like a giant warehouse room that's very tall. It's got its own space. Like David said, these massive actuators are like 12 feet. The thing goes up and down and like feet. It spins and goes in circles and everything. And so it really does give that driver some massive force feedback.
All right, Mike, I think it's about time we jump over to results.
All right, let's do it. All right, let's talk Friday Open. This was the Daytona 500. I got a P6. Oh, no, wait a minute. I was P6 early on. There was a big wreck with the leader on the front row. The bottom kept hitting the apron, and he basically lost it and took out the field. I barely missed that one. Later, I had a situation where my screen froze for almost 4 seconds. I lost a bunch of track position. I didn't wreck. I ended up losing a lap eventually, gained that lap back on track before a caution. While under caution, one guy was really slow to come around to pit road. So we were all stopped at the entrance waiting. And then some guy came up and ran into the back of me and gave me a drive through penalty. I was able to catch a caution after that. Penalty was served, kept it on the lead lap, and then I started getting involved in incident after incident. I got to 24X on the second green white checker when they wrecked. I was able to drive through and finish P6. So I actually got a decent finish, um, a top 10. So David, P11.
Yeah, I was strong at Daytona all week, but just didn't get lucky on this one. I got dumped late. A guy just stuck it down on the inside and pushed me when I tried to not let him go. I let probably the whole open up just a little too much, but I couldn't 100% blame him, but he definitely was unforgiving. But it is late in the race. Still climbed back, but that's Daytona.
All right, Justin, P32. Race had 3 cautions by lap 10. I was in the last caution, meatball. Chris Waldron, P13. Got spun with 60 to go. Caution flags did not come out to get repaired. And then Tyler Williamson, P black flag, running 4 on the last lap and got a massive run on the front 3. A block sent me high and I got loose, bumping the wall, giving me 18X. Crossed the line in 4th, but finished P16. Really bummed out about a 3.5 hour race and getting the black flag on the last turn. Should have just rode it out in 4th. All other incident points were getting turned or cut down on. One 4X was on me for bump drafting. That was not a 4X. Incident points at Daytona were sus. Okay, and then Tony Rochette, P11, with a new paint job. The Dark Burb Rises car started in the 7th spot. About 7 laps later, while just cruising with my draft buffer, dude behind me decided I want to bump the hell out of me, causing me to exit stage left on the back straight and lose a draft. For the rest of the race, I was trying to play catch up. In a race typically full of chaos and mayhem, there was none for 3/4 of the race. Only one caution in 150 laps. Within that time frame, I ran out of gas short of my pit on my first green flag stop. Second green flag, I was just before the line when the caution came out. I was stuck behind dumbass drivers who couldn't hold the line nor knew how to push or be pushed. At one time, I was 2 laps down, but the last quarter we had our shenanigans made those back up to finish on the lead lap. Thank you to Brian McChicken for making an awesome paint for the chubby burb, but think he forgot to grease down for Arrow. John, P25.
Yeah, this race was a poster child for why we need stages in these long races. And I've never had a strong opinion about that, but now I do. We had only 9 cars finished on the lead lap. First pit stop was under green. I was in 9th at the time. and somebody wrecked me in the pits, and I couldn't get my pit stall. Had to go back on the track and come right back in, do it again. That put me a lap down, and I never recovered from that. First caution was on lap 45, and I got a passing under yellow penalty, and I still don't understand how that happened. But then that put me 2 laps down, and then we didn't have any cautions for another 135 laps. Hence, we need stages on these. Field was so spread out, there was no chance to catch anybody. And to be honest with you, the most boring race I've ever been in. Yeah, it was just not fun. It wasn't awful, but it just wasn't fun.
Absolutely hell no to the stages.
I'd like stages in these full distance races. Special event, man. I would
Yeah,
say, yeah.
yeah, just in these. I mean, I'm not a fan of it, but when you've got a 500-mile race, I mean,
Yeah.
man, this just gets boring.
Are we gonna change the system and add points to the stage racing, and are we going to calculate that into the drop weeks? It's the whole point of stage racing was to get the people to race harder, not just get them to not just give us a caution and natural cautions. I still don't really like the stages in real racing, but they're at least almost they're all full length races at least. No, we're already bad enough and cause enough cautions usually. Just because you got unlucky one time doesn't mean everybody that has damage deserves a chance to get back in with stage breaks.
Right. And then Joe Owen ran with us. He was wrecked out. Saturday fix. John, P5.
Yeah, I started P12, and because of that debacle in the open race, I just said, you know, heck with this. I'm going to start in the back, avoid the wrecks, and it actually worked. We had 9 cautions. I was in 15th on the last lap when the front runners decided to have the big one. I just passed the junkyard of wrecked cars and made it up to 5th place. Now, I don't like laying back like that, but I knew it was the only way to get a decent finish considering all, you know, what had been going on at Daytona that week. I'm David, I'm with you on it. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion about stages, but you know, when you have to build a strategy around wrecks and to get a 5th place finish because I did that, it's not because I was good, but it's because I'm figuring out when people are going to wreck. I mean, there's got to be a better way, but I'm happy with that finish anyway.
But your strategy is still a gamble because they could just as easy finish clean, and then you're all the way in the back or stuck a lap down. Um, in the splits I'm in, you can't lay back usually. One of the and as a result, we had a lot of people just finish on the lead lap because that was the people who were fast, right? And we literally just lapped the field, and not because they were wrecked out. And I think I want to see more of that almost old school racing where long run and being able to put together consistent speed instead of just hot lapping all the time is what matters.
Moving on to Sunday Open. I got a P14. Had an up and down race. I actually led laps for a while. It was green forever. At one point, I actually slid through the pit road box, lost the pack. I eventually caught a caution that saved me. But after that, just getting caught up in other people's issues and wrecks and wasn't a great finish. Chris Waldron, P20, went a lap down under green and missed the lucky dog 4 times. David, P19.
Another one where I ran all the way up in the front, but kept getting caught up in incidents, including one where a guy just barely touched me because I had to check up because another car nearly wrecked and flew back up on the track. So I get off the brakes and just barely scrape or I get off the gas, barely scrape the brakes, and the guy just barely taps me. Not an unreasonable, he wasn't paying attention kind of anything. And 4X, and it all just added up. I'm coming on the outside with a shot for the win, actually. And the guy on the inside gets a bad bump and hits me, and it gives me 18X, crossing the line.
Bang. Justin, P32 again. Green flag run, lap 125. We go in for fuel. The guy behind me runs me over on entry going into the pits. I managed to keep it straight, hit my box. On the exit, the same guy's behind me straight up runs me over on the exit of pit road, and I hook right and junk my car. Adam Jocelyn wrecked out. Tony wrecked. You know when you tell someone to stop slamming your ass and they wreck you? Yeah, that was me. Brian wrecked by a lap. Brian Curry wrecked by a lap car. Greg wrecked late in the race. Moving on to Sunday fixed. T2, my best result of the week. I was running third on the white. I had a run on the top two. I went high on them, and at the line, I lost it by maybe a foot. It was a pretty uneventful race otherwise, so we were just riding. But I was in position to win. I don't know who was watching. Brad, I think you might have been spotting that, or no, maybe it was Brian. But yeah, I almost won it, so feel pretty good about that. Justin ran. He got a P4. He said, stayed conservative. I was desperate for a good finish. I led 11 laps. It was a solid finish. I will take a finish like this anytime. All right, let's move on to Atlanta Dega. My race, I got caught up in the first caution, which was David. I was right behind the two people who sped out 2.5 minutes optional. The next job, I the next time I got ran over from behind for another 4X, and then I got destroyed when somebody else basically brake checks, and I get ran over from behind, and the car gets heavily damaged. No caution. Total shit show from that point forward. I ended up with a drive-through penalty and eventually DQ'd out with 3 to go. David, P12.
Yeah, it was a pretty infuriating race where I stole a not terrible finish. I would like to see a better finish, but I was in that first caution. I was qualified by P5, P6, and at one point a guy passed me on the under the red line in Atlanta, and he thinks it's not against the rules. I let him up. I didn't have to because my only other choice was to let him wreck me so I could protest him. I think that's an issue that I really want to be dealt with. If they make an unsafe rejoin, whether it causes a wreck or not, it needs to be protestable. And it may be not. I don't know if the question come up. That forced me 3 wide into a bunch of mess. And as I'm trying to get back into position, I finally get in line in the outside line, and I'm getting back into a rhythm. Then there's just a hard checkup, and I can't avoid the guy in front of me. I tried to avoid him to the inside and end up hooking him. Then just back and forth on the race. I think I was even a lap down at some point, and survive for P12 with again 16X. One of them from a wreck, another one from somebody else's wreck, and 2 from just bad bump drafts.
Bump drafting continues into the second week. Justin P30 ran the race in the top 10 half the race. Just got caught up in somebody else's wreck. Nothing I can do. I've dropped 400 I rating in 2 weeks because of these speedway tracks. I guess I got to get better and stay up front. Brad, P19.
Yeah, started a P5 and was kind of I guess the odd man out. While we were running, you guys were having all kinds of issues, and we ran first 55 laps green. Race was going great. Frustrating race because you couldn't go anywhere. A lot of side drafting. We got till about lap 100, and then the yellow started. And then we finally had the big one. Got caught up in that one, and ended up by the time we got going, made a pit stop and hit the pace cars. Nobody can get caught up on these tracks, and that's even more frustrating. You got to get in and get damage fixed, and guys just lollygag around, so you can't get in. I literally get into my pit stall, and the pace cars, coming out of 4. So no option to really get much fixed. Ended up finishing a lap down. Just a really frustrating night from what seemed like it was going to be a good solid probably top 5, but no incidents, and just I just let not my cup of tea when it comes to this kind of racing. Just I don't enjoy it. Daytona you can at least kind of hide and avoid it. Atlanta you can't. You're in the middle of it. You're stacked up, and guys just drive like morons.
Pass. There's nowhere to pass. I mean, you double up.
No, I mean, and you got guys that are trying to stay on the lead lap, and we had a guy that just pulled up in front of everybody and caused a wreck last night. I mean, it's just, and the excuse is, well, I'm got to stay on the lead lap. Okay, well, you're an idiot. I mean, it's just, there's just some things you don't do. If you're lap down, I'm not going to pull up in front of the traffic just so I can try to avoid losing another lap. I mean, it's mind blowing sometimes.
Well, the proper thing to do if your car is not broken is what I did, because I did get a lucky dog. I stayed low, but on the red line. And at some point, somebody fussed about it, and I said, say, hey, look, I'm not just going to pull down and let y'all pull away from me on the drive. I didn't block them, but I stayed low. I kept enough of my momentum to be able to latch onto the pack, and as a result, I stayed in the lucky dog position.
That's fine.
Mhm.
You just don't pull up in the middle of the traffic.
No.
It's just, again, it's we're back to racecraft. There is none, and it's extremely frustrating. And listening, I was just getting more discouraged listening to you guys talk, and I was in a lower split than y'all. And and I said at the beginning of the race, I can't wait till I can get my my rating back up so I can race with you guys. And it was just a complete crap show with y'all.
That's the track.
It was a mess.
That's
It's the track.
in the
I
car.
agree 100%. 100%. It's the track. That's what I said. The real season starts next week. We can actually race and get away from people, and setups make a difference, and your driving makes a difference. And I want to have these 2 weeks behind us.
I gave it another shot today and Thursday Open. I was riding along in 10th, approaching green flag stops. The front group decides to pull in. Some loser doesn't realize it, and he shoots from the bottom to the top and destroys everybody in the outside lane, including me. Um, and so I didn't even finish the race. I ended up with 4 minutes damage and rode around a few laps and parked it.
And that brings up a discussion we had in the chat. What are we? It's the third year of the new Atlanta, and you still don't have the right pit entrance. Where you're pitting off of three. I think that would solve a lot of problems.
So you're saying the real track does have that. We just don't have the updated scan.
I don't. It's not really need a scan.
They
They just
just-
need to put in.
You have to set up a blue cone, or
that's
or
all you
like,
need.
You just have to, but you'd have to put the speed limit there too. I don't think the speed limit goes that far back in the real NASCAR. They just have the commitment line there.
That's yeah. I mean, I don't think you had to be at pit road speed when you're going into three, but there ought to be a commitment there. They ought to be able to do that. I just can't imagine they couldn't do that. Again, we never had to pit under green last night, and I was so grateful for that because I knew what it was going to be. I knew it was going to be exactly what happened to you, Mike.
Yeah, I was in a good spot. I didn't have any incidents. I was in the lead pack. Yeah, it was very frustrating. Let's talk other racing. I ran the FIA F4 at Okayama. The sim would not load and crashed at 90%. Now, that's the first time I had a problem since they got rid of the website. I finally hit launch again and it ended up crashing the entire computer. My whole computer turned off. Then after the reboot, my computer went into Windows Update, and I had to and then it rebooted again and even more updates. And then by then I was P7 as I missed qualifying. It was an 8-minute qualifying and a 3-minute warm up, so I was able to grid from seventh, and I got to well, let me see how it's a gridded P7 as I missed qualifying and got to 12th by lap one, seventh by lap three, and went on to finish the race in P5. So, anyway, a nice P5 after having computer problems at the beginning, missing qualifying. Um, I like this car and I can't wait to try it in the rain. Brad, you ran B and C.
Yeah, I ran just a mix of both of them. Never really got a great finish. Again, I would have good runs, and you end up getting caught up in somebody else's mess. It's Daytona, so like I said, just glad to see it in the rearview mirror.
Okay, Chris Waldron, Road to Pro P15. The early big one on lap 17, green flag the rest of the way, lost the lead pack on the pit stops, ended clean. He's 435th in the points. All right, Chris, I'm glad somebody's doing it. And then Brad A Open P14.
Yep, decided to run an open race. I think I guess before the Daytona, maybe I don't remember now. Again, Daytona. Started P2, ran up front. Just again, very aggressive driving. I mean, we're 3 and 4 wide off a lap at lap 7. Ended up getting spun off turn 2. Lost the drive, hit it by myself. Got the lucky dog. Ended up fighting back. It's Daytona, so another one where I should have had a better finish, but didn't.
All right. And then John, you had B Open and C Open.
Yeah, B Open qualified P5, finished P5, stayed up front the whole race in the B Open. Good clean race. It's one of those usuals where at the end of the race some guy tries to go in the middle of two cars where there's no hole, but I didn't lose the spot, so got a P5. Then I did a P19 at Daytona in the C Open. Was going 9th moving forward, but it was short-lived. On lap 11, I'm on the inside line. The eventual winner is right next to me on the outside in turn 3. He decided, hey, I want that guy's spot, so I'm just going to knock him out of the way. And he did. He told me a spotter said he was clear, but if that's true, he was using the Stevie Wonder spotter pack. Never fails. The guy who wrecks me always wins or finishes in top 5, but, whatever. And then did a P8, got to race with teammate Bobby Jonas. He and I were together, and we were strong. We're running 3rd and 4th. Leaders decided to pit. Bobby and me decided to stay out one more lap, but some guy came up on the outside lane and decided to pit with the leader. So he just took a hard left right into us. Took us out, but we came back and made our way up in the lead pack, got a P8.
Yeah, where can I download the Stevie Wonder spotter pack? That sounds pretty cool. Brian McCubbin didn't qualify, started towards the back, got near the front, was wall slammed on the outside by a car that got turned on the bottom, worked on damage until cautions, but was off pace. Got damage fixed by last caution, which was green, white checker. Restarted 17th, got through all the trouble, and wound up in an embarrassing 3rd place. Well done, Brian. And then Brian also ran OBRL ARCA Las Vegas, 35 cars, P16, qualified 17, stayed in mid-pack, but moved up just outside the top 10. Cars wrecked in front of me late in the race, was okay to finish, but dropped to 16th. Okay, final thoughts, David Hall.
So there's an eclipse coming up that's literally passing right over where I live. I've already got my binoculars with solar filters on them, and I've bought a bunch of stuff for my car to sort of turn it into a camper because I'm going to, if I have to chase the weather, I'm not going to have to worry about a hotel. I'm just going to go sleep at a gas station somewhere. But I'm also planning on trying to use that to camp at races as well. So I'm putting a feeler out to the Discord community to let me know what you know about swamp coolers and other tiny air conditioner options for a car. I've been looking into it, but according to the research, swamp coolers are not good in humid air, and where I live, it's always humid. So let me know what you know.
All right, sounds like a plan. Brad Wren, final thought.
Just looking forward to Bathurst on Saturday. So we got a three driver team. We're gonna go ahead and give it a go. Challenge and race. 2 guys that don't have a lot of road experience. Justin Pearson and John Curley. Justin did great at Daytona and really kind of came into, I think, his own. This will be the first one for John. So again, it's all about fun. But, again, we're all competitive. We want to finish well, so I think it's going to be a challenge. Looking forward to that, and then just happy to get back to a regular track starting next week on the NASCAR iRacing series, and we can start to let the season start, let the field start to thin themselves out as guys can't stay hooked up and everything else. So just looking forward to that.
Yeah, very good. John Curley, final thought.
Well, yeah. So, speaking of eclipse, I went to school and grew up close to Carbondale, where the center of this eclipse is, the last one and the next one. So I'll be there for that. But looking forward to Bathurst. I've been practicing. I'm not a road course guy, but it's a lot of fun. And ready to get Daytona and Atlanta behind us like everybody else.
All right. And then my final thoughts. It's not a great start to the season. I mean, P6 in Daytona in the open, um, P2 in the fixed. Not too bad for Daytona week, but Atlanta, two DNFs in a row. I didn't even finish. And so I'm really hoping for a good result Friday. Now that I'm off on Sundays, I'm probably going to start running the Sunday morning races. Man, that's pretty early to get up in the morning on a day off at 8 a.m. But I'll probably do it unless I have a really good result on Friday. But still hoping for a good result. I know there's a lot of negativity about Atlanta and the racing, but I'm not trying to buy into that. I'm just, hey, I need those points. There's points on the table here. Remember, I finished second in points last year. I got to do better this year. So every week counts. It's too early to be giving up drop weeks. So with that, hey, we'll see you on the track later. All right, title ideas.
Wrecked.
I got three.
Wrecked.
Wrecked. Yeah.
Yep. Number
Wrecked.
three. Number three.
Because
Okay,
I just
there it
heard you
is.
saying that when you were reading the results, it was wrecked, and that's when I typed it in.
All right. Good show, guys. Thanks for showing.
Somebody tell Greg we're done.
And I'm going to get some dinner.
It's a while back,
Yeah,
and I don't
edit.
know if you.
Edit will be delayed. I'm running a race.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Good luck, because you got to get in there.
Yeah, it's in 7
Brad,
minutes. I'm already
did
registered.
you have a question about how to do those links that don't embed right?
Yeah. No matter what I tried putting new ones in, it still wouldn't work right. So I don't know what I was doing wrong.
Well, look, here's the way I handle those. If it doesn't embed right and you don't like the look of it, then just figure out what the original link is, delete whatever's there out of there. Usually I do the undo arrow. There's an undo. Or you can highlight it and hit delete. And then just, hit paragraph, put a space, hit space bar, and then paste in the link after the space. Then you can highlight the link and make it a link and opens in a new window and all that. That way you don't have the embed, you just have the link. And then like Brian showed you, maybe you just take a picture and you put a picture with it or something.
Okay. Yeah, I tried to re-embed it, and it'll show it up in the edit, but when you go to once you save it, you go to the preview. There's nothing there other than that little home text.
Yeah, so if it doesn't embed right, yeah, I just want a link is all I want, you know.
10-4.
Cool. All right, I appreciate you doing it, man. I hope it's not taking you too long. Like I
No,
said originally, don't let it.
no. Like I said, I usually get home on Wednesday nights, and I've got time. I'll sit down for 30 minutes or so, and then I got home tonight and be doing a few more up there. So it's all good. It's all good.
Okay, good to hear. Good to hear. All right, I'll see you guys.
Yep.
See ya.
Brad, you still there?
I am. I'm trying to go through and get the results put in. I've already got the next episode done, so I think I did okay there. Just got to
Yes,
figure
I
out.
saw that. It looked good.
Yeah, so I know we just got to. I don't know what you guys were putting in for fantasy before, so
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get home in time to do that, but all I do is just go to the NASCAR website and go to fantasy, and you can look up the results. Let me see if I can find it real quick. We can put it in. Did you talk about it at all?
yeah, we did. Mike went
Okay,
through it
cool.
real quick.
Cool. Let me get it up. See if it's still the same as last year too, because it could be different. But all I would ever do is just go to the website, the NASCAR website, and go to the fantasy stuff, and then pull up the results, and then and after that, I would just take a screenshot of the or snip and sketch the results.
You just grab it like what, top 10 or whatever.
Yeah, I'll usually just grab try to get at least 10.
All right, 10-4. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, it's simple.
No, like I said, I took my notes last week and that worked out fine. So
Yeah.
should be good.
Okay, cool. I think I messed up something when I came in earlier. I think I made a duplicate of the one that you're in now instead of closing it out. So I'll fix that up later. I couldn't do it because you were logged in as the editor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm just trying to go through and get all the results in there.
Okay, I found it.